Welcome all, and thank you for being here. I'm Angie, and my group members Avery and Julia and I are proposing the design for an equitable food and transit-oriented development in the West Boulevard corridor in Charlotte, North Carolina. The neighborhood has a rich history of resilience in the face of repeated systematic discrimination. After the Civil War and emancipation, many former slaves began to purchase land and build new lives in the area, including the prominent African American Parker family, who purchased 12 acres of farmland near Remount Road in 1898. Unfortunately, this wave of progress was followed by the displacement of many Black farmers in 1917 when Camp Green, an Army camp, established itself on the north end of the corridor. At the camp, thousands of African American soldiers were trained during World War I. During this time, there are also several new subdivisions developed in the area that were strictly all white. In more recent history, there has been some progress towards a more equitable city, with the integration of the public golf course in 1960 and the naming of that same golf course after Black PGA star Dr. Charles L. Sifford in 2011.
In previous stakeholder engagement, the community articulated key concerns, including improving pedestrian safety, providing greater access to food, beautifying natural features, and perhaps most importantly, avoiding displacement caused by impending gentrification. We utilized these concerns to drive our site analysis. When asked what they least liked about the corridor, most community members cited unsafe and disconnected walking conditions. The existing mobility infrastructure is highly car-centric. Bike lanes are minimal and unprotected, and most streetways feel unsafe for pedestrians. In the future, access to the light rail and sidewalk improvements could significantly decrease greenhouse gas emissions while providing greater access to jobs. The community has a deep spiritual connection to the local waterways, and long-term residents like Laura Rankin and Curly Hall recalled fetching drinking water from a nearby spring before city utilities came in, and also reminisced about walking down to the creek for baptisms on Sundays. This made us wonder about potential toxic sites in the area and their negative impacts on water quality. Unfortunately, we found several brownfield sites that will need remediation. Lastly, in our conversations with Ricky Hall, it was apparent that the neighborhood is a food desert. By mapping out food outlets in the neighborhood, we can see a clear lack of access to fresh foods.
Several community-driven initiatives are already in progress. In addition to growing their own fresh veggies and educating youth about farming, at Seeds for Change Urban Farm, community members have also begun visioning and fundraising efforts to open Three Sisters Market, a cooperative food store. Strides are also being made in addressing the issue of displacement by forming the Community Land Trust. We recognize these efforts and consider our design process to be an amplification of what the community has already envisioned. Charlotte is planning 2 transit stops along the Silver Line within our study area at Remount Road and Ashley Road. With plans for transit-oriented development around those 2 transit stops, the neighborhood is vulnerable to gentrification and displacement in the near future. We think it is essential to prioritize the people who already live in the corridor. We would like to leverage the predicted growth and development to achieve some of the existing community goals. Simultaneously, we see opportunities to enhance the surrounding natural resources in order to strengthen the mental and physical health of residents while providing a harvest of fresh local food.
So, how can we utilize an ecological approach to accommodate growth while also promoting food justice and land sovereignty for the community? We drew inspiration from permaculture principles in efforts to solve some of these complex urban design challenges. Permaculture combines agriculture with natural systems in order to create a closed-loop sustainable system, which aligns perfectly with the self-sufficiency ethos of the West Boulevard community. We rooted our design in the 10 principles of permaculture, including strategies like observe, reveal, and interact, meaning we need to take the time to understand and celebrate the unique cultural and environmental conditions within a community. Apply self-regulation could mean setting up systems that can adapt to setbacks and forging new partnerships between public and private groups. The These accompany more straightforward principles like zero waste, using renewable energy, and recognizing that the margins are just as important as the middle. Putting these principles into practice, we can look across the future light rail corridor, ending at the Ashley Station and Farmers Market. In this area, rain gardens reveal and collect stormwater in small, beautiful spaces. A chestnut tree doesn't just provide shade, but also air purification and nutritious nuts. Wildflower paths along the normally barren rail lines provide habitat for all sorts of beneficial pollinators. And new buildings are constructed with regionally harvested renewable timber and incorporate rooftop greenhouses or solar panels.
Looking southward from Wilkinson Boulevard, we see the future Maggie Freeman Park, named after one of the founders of the West Boulevard Neighborhood Coalition. In an interview with UNC Charlotte, Maggie Freeman discussed her childhood in a family of sharecroppers and how 5 days a week, all of the farmhands and families, including the white landowners, would come together to spread out food under a tree and eat as a community. So, Maggie Freeman Park will be a place where people of all backgrounds can come together at the community table and have fellowship under the shade trees. Looking deeper into this space, we have adapted an existing building to provide a covered social gathering area and also retrofitted it with solar panels to capture clean energy. This community center also provides space for the Neighborhood Coalition to grow, and it showcases vibrant murals honoring important Black women in the neighborhood's history. Lastly, this design will support a greater diversity of transportation, including the addition of a protected bike and walking path on both sides of the boulevard.
Zooming out to the plan for the Parker District, you can see that this is a truly mixed-use development, meaning not only do the buildings contain a variety of uses, but the entire site includes several modes of transit, ample living, working, and shopping spaces, lush public parks, and plenty of space to grow food sustainably. The mobility network includes extensive bicycle and pedestrian paths, internal roads, which we're calling living streets, that allow vehicles through but give priority to pedestrians, and of course the future Silver Line. The wide variety of growing spaces both feeds the community and generates revenue through the sale of surplus produce to Uptown Charlotte and the airport. The rooftop greenhouses alone can produce over $43 million in produce. The new Food Innovation Hub is built upon a remediated brownfield. In addition to food production and composting, the hub also includes a state-of-the-art processing facility that creates a central space for farmers to bring their produce and drastically reduces food transportation miles. Our open space plan includes quality parkland for the community, along with ecologically rich conservation land to absorb carbon and protect streams. Our proposal combats displacement by incorporating over 370 affordable housing units, and the geometry of the promenade and the greenway paths harkens back to the triangular property purchased by the Parker family in 1898.
At the city scale, you can see how we are reinforcing the permaculture idea of closed loop systems. For example, food waste is collected by the city and turned into compost for urban farms so that no nutrients are lost in the system. We recognize that good design and equitable policy need to work hand in hand in order to produce lasting change. We propose policies such as requiring local workers for construction and prioritizing women and minority-owned businesses for retail and office spaces. To promote equity, the district will ensure access to housing, medical and financial services, and of course, healthy foods. In an effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, landfills will become obsolete in favor of reuse and recycling. We can also reduce emissions by localizing our food system, protecting carbon sequestering natural areas, and mandating citywide green building standards. To tie these policies together, we propose a Parker Community Land Trust to manage district operations and to ensure the values of food justice and land sovereignty are upheld.
Now, let's imagine life in the Parker District. You finish up the workday at your engaging job in the Food Innovation Center testing new varieties of hydroponic crops. On the walk home, you stop by the farmer's market to pick up some fresh local apples to later bake an apple pie. Your apartment is a pleasant 5-minute walk away, filled with a rainbow of native flowers and the sounds of birds chirping. You arrive home and get to work on the pie in your solar-powered kitchen, furnished with locally harvested wood cabinets. And finally, walking with your warm pie in hand, you join friends at Maggie Freeman Park for a potluck dinner, talking and laughing well past sundown. This is our vision for life in the Parker District.
We want to sincerely thank Ricky Hall, J. Michael Moore, and the folks at the City of Charlotte for sharing their knowledge with us, as well as Professor Kofi Boone and our guest reviewers throughout the semester. Thank you very much for listening.